Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. First and foremost, I want to apologise. There was supposed to be a global weather and climate report yesterday, and I was actually going to attempt to do a live stream of the global weather report. Unfortunately, due to technical issues, I wasn't even able to get a video done full stop. So back on today, and I will take a second bite at it next weekend. So I am working on a few things to try and improve the channel in the not so distant future, and even live streams are something that I am going to attempt to re-establish. I did do a live stream, I think, a couple of years ago now, and I never done another one for no particular reason, but I'm wanting to try and get back to that again, and hopefully I can try and get that up and running potentially for next Sunday afternoon. So I'm going to try and make that a thing on a Sunday afternoon when time is available. So stay tuned for that. Like, share, and subscribe. You know the drill by now. We have seen quite a contrast across the UK and Ireland through the course of today. It's been a thoroughly miserable day across the northern half of the UK. A weather front trapped between cold Arctic air to the north and really mild air across the south. No getting away from that. The reason why is we've got this contrast here. We've got cold Arctic air trying to drill south. We've got a mild area of high pressure, 1030 plus millibars across southwestern Europe. And you can see here this frontal system kind of stuck in place between the two boundaries here. This is the boundary separating the two air masses, and you can see that we're actually drawing some of that moisture and warmth all the way from the subtropical Atlantic here around the periphery of that high. What's going to happen is underneath that front, we've seen upwards of 5 inches of rain. So that's well over 125 millimeters of rain since midnight. And, when totals come in, it'll be interesting to see just how much rainfall we've seen over the last 24 or so hours. But this is the reason for that very, very significant amount of rain causing all sorts of problems. This is a Facebook page here, the A9 traffic info, and this, even up around this area where I live, this was the scene on the A9 of flooding across the region here. Let's see if I can get back to the picture here. Okay, so here's the image of the A9 just outside the Kincraig Castle Hotel near Invergordon, and we've seen the flooding across the carriageway here. This was an image captured by Ian Kerr earlier on this afternoon. This was the scene south of Tomic Junction. Traffic lights in use due to flooding coming off. So basically you've got runoff off the fields onto the A9, and that has been the story throughout the course of today. I do know that the road between the Ardooly roundabout, if you know the geography of this area, the A9 has been bad, but side roads, the Dingwall to Ardooly road has been bad with flooding. Folks saying that they can hardly see the road due to the water line on the road. We had the doors to Inverness Road, very significant flooding there. And then once you got further north, this was Cosymar to Thurso at 25 to 2 this afternoon. And you can see the snowfall. So any high elevation, we have seen flooding. This is a capture by Katrina Dryborough between Dingwall and Strathpeffer. This is quite a dip in the road here, and this flooded quite badly back during the very wet weather in October. And then, like I say, the snowfall. This is Berrydale Bray, 1:10 this afternoon, showing the snowfall here. So you can see the contrast in the air mass here. If we go back to the overview chart and then look at the 850s, you can see here the contrast in the air mass between north and south. Temperatures at the time of recording here, which is 5:20 in the evening, we've got only 1 Celsius at Altnahara, while if you go even down to the central belt, we've still got plus 10 Celsius at Glasgow Airport. Down towards the Midlands and the south of the UK, we've got the 12, 13, possibly even 14 Celsius. Widespread warmth here underneath that area of high pressure. And you can see as the frontal system now starts to make a bit of a nudge southwards, you can see here off Weather Online, there's that frontal system. There's a loop here for the last 90 minutes. And you can start to see that front with all this rainfall starting to sink southwards, what that's going to do is that's going to introduce colder air, and we go from a flood risk to a freeze risk during the course of this evening as colder air to the north starts to sink southwards. So I think we're going to have a widespread ice issue by the time we reach daybreak tomorrow. So this is something that you need to be very, very cautious of as you venture out across the north during the course of tomorrow morning at rush hour. So you can see here as we play through the loop, that system then rides across the north. Now, as that system then exits to the east, there is the cold Arctic air starting to sink south, and it takes a little while to do so. This is even by Wednesday morning. You notice here across the far south of both Ireland and the UK, really from about South Wales across to Essex, the southern portions of Suffolk. We're on that boundary between the warm and cold air, if you notice here. But then as we move towards the middle portion of the week, things get rather interesting. As the milder air may perhaps try to lift a little bit further north once again, we've got a system that's coming in from the west. Remember, as I've said back during the weekend and the latter half of last week, that we still have an active jet stream that is getting forced southwards as we're starting to increase the heights across the high latitudes, Arctic, northern portions of Greenland. We're starting to see the buildup of pressure here. And as that cold air kind of pivots south and then kind of pivots back a little bit further north, then there's a frontal system with its moisture moves across. We've got the cold air in place, and we could see a significant spell of heavy snowfall on the northern flank of that circulation. So if we look at the UK in particular, this is the snow threat number one. We've got snow showers across the north. I don't think they're going to be particularly problematic over the next couple of days here, but over high ground we will possibly start to lay down a snow cover once again, and really even down to sea level I think we're going to have enough cold air in place. Now, as you can see, that frontal system is moving further south. This is 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. See it sinking further south. In comes the colder air with its snow showers. Nothing particularly significant to write home about. Certainly under clear skies and light winds by night time we are going to see the temperatures crash to the lowest levels of this month so far. But as we move late Wednesday into Thursday, that's when we need to keep a close eye on this. We could see a significant spell of snow. The biggest spell of snow so far this winter across a large swathe of southern Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland. Better need to make sure that I get that right without upsetting anybody. But you can see here across North and Mid Wales, heavy snowfall breaking out. Remember, this is the ECMWF. We've got the GFS, the Met Office, the Arrow model, the Arpegge model. There's so many different models to look at, and each model run is going to have a slightly different depth of the low, position of the low, speed of which it goes from west to east. But keep in mind that as this system moves through, then we're going to introduce colder air once again back into play. But you notice here that area of low pressure is trying to lift northwards here, so it's trying to pull something slightly milder back north. Notice here the band of precipitation with that low moves north, so we could increase the snow threat in the northern England, southern and central Scotland here. But it's going to be a little bit of a complex situation to pin down the details. But you notice here the 850 temperatures show this representation at 5,000 feet here. So generally holds on to the cold air between Manchester and Leeds, as you can see here. As we continue to play through the latter half of the week, we see that system eventually clearing off into Denmark, and in comes that colder air from the north here. So we do see a little bit of a lift north of the mild Atlantic air, then it comes back south again, and we have some thoroughly cold air coming down. Now, as higher pressure perhaps tries to build in across the northern UK, we could have some very significant amounts of cold air during the overnight period. This is the snow depth chart of the ECMWF by the time we reach 12th of February next Monday. A long way out, of course. Let's go back to the here and now and see how the model portrays the next few days here. So there's those snow showers coming in across the north of the British Isles here, laying down snow, but it could snow even down to sea level here, but it depends on the exposure of that wind. Some places will see it, some places may see a good few centimetres of snow. Then the latest ECMWF indicates that we see a significant spell of snow right through the heart of Ireland, across mid Wales and up towards the north coast of Wales, through the Midlands, up into Manchester, and then as that system then allows the frontal boundary to pivot a little bit further north, as the low itself moves into Denmark, we increase the chance of snow into northern portions of England, southern and central Scotland, and this is as we move from Wednesday right the way through to Saturday, the upcoming weekend here. So we are getting back into the wintry theme once again. As I've already said before, there is still many question marks with regards to the strength of the cold spell, the length of time it lasts. I think that the MJO potentially rotating into a null phase may allow this pattern to linger longer than what we've seen early December and mid-January, where we're seeing the MJO rotating out of the cold phases back into the warm phases, and then we knew that the pattern would break, we would return to a milder theme. But there is question marks over this particular pattern. But you notice here that the snow depth chart doesn't change much late this week, through the weekend, and into the early and middle portions of next week. What does that tell me? It tells me the cold air is wanting to hold on. So if we look at the 850 temperature chart, and you can see here the 850s aren't overly cold, but remember, cold air is denser, it's heavy, it tends to drop down to the surface. And even though we may start to lose some of the depth of cold air at the 5,000 foot level over the British Isles, we could still have a fairly cold overall pattern as we progress through the weekend and into early portions of next week here. Let's now have a look at the GFS, and you can see here that the same type of scenario takes place. It helps if I get back to the right chart, doesn't it? So we've got the frontal system stuck in place at the moment. It sinks south over the next 24 to 48 hours, southwards over the UK. We do have a feature. You notice here the difference between the ECM and the GFS. We've got a feature at 979 millibars riding that northerly flow, which may increase the snow threat through the course of tomorrow and into Wednesday with that northerly flow across the north. Then as we move towards the all-important midweek period here, continue with those snow showers, but you notice here there's that system moving in possibly a little bit later. No, it isn't actually. Talking rubbish here. I was going to say possibly a little later than the ECMWF, but I'm getting confused with my time frame here. But look at this here. Significant snow as seen by the ECM on the GFS across Ireland. Now notice here it's moving a little bit further north. This is the thing. We need to keep an eye on the different models. Where's the ensemble? So where's the all the conglomeration of all the different model runs? What's the ensemble mean showing? That tends to have a little bit better guidance instead of picking out each individual model run. But you notice here that we do see that the swathe of snow across the central swathe of the Republic of Ireland, North and Mid Wales, the central and northern Midlands. That boundary then pivots a little bit further north here, as you can see, and it actually spreads the snow all the way up through the northern half of the British Isles here. So if we look at the 850 temperature chart, this is a very different theme to what the ECMWF is showing, because it's actually showing milder air moving northwards, if you notice here. So this is the confliction in the models. This is the differences that need to be taken into consideration. Now let's have a look finally at the snow depth chart of the GFS. And it's showing not a bad snow cover overall. So we'll play through the loop, see how much snow it lays down with the initial band. Decent amount across Ireland, not as bullish as the ECMWF, may I add, is showing. Then as we see that snow with the frontal system spreads northwards across Scotland here. So it certainly is all to play for when it comes to the snow potential late Wednesday through Thursday and towards the upcoming weekend here. So keep it right here on my YouTube channel. Plenty of content coming up here on the channel through the rest of this week. We'll look at the details as we go through the course of this work week. So stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.